Today on the podcast we have Deena Pierott, and boy, she is definitely a spark of fire. When I first met her, I met her through one of my friends, Nate, who has a wonderful podcast called Coffee with Nate, and you guys should definitely check that out. He connected me with her on Twitter, and we messaged back and forth for a couple of times. Then we hopped on the phone, and before we knew it, I was working with her on a new project, just off of one conversation. And I think just my initial experience interacting with her is sort of like why she's doing such great things. She was invited to the White House as a White House champion of change for the Obama administration. She has a wealth of experience and connections. She's originally from LA, but she's been in Seattle, and she does a lot of stuff in Portland. She has iUrban team, which I'm a part of, and a lot of people in the community with Urban League and with Intel and Nike. There are a lot of people involved in the iUrban team thing, and I definitely think that a lot of people should check it out. She also launched the Black Women in S.T.E.A.M 2.0 conference, which if you haven't been to that, man, in terms of walking into a space in Portland and being around a whole bunch of Black people that are also interested in science and technology and art. It was one of those things that I think that was one of the blackest moments I've ever had in Portland. Just being a part of so many bright minds and so many beautiful Black faces. And it's just, I think what she is doing and the people that she is creating stuff for and the door she's opening for, it's just really admirable. And I'm just fortunate enough to have her on the podcast and really be able to work with her and interface with her just on a regular basis. And so without further ado, let's listen to Deena. Yep. Welcome to the 21st century. Where you can't go outside, but you could sit on the couch and watch everything while you work.
You have all the entertainment you need.
Oh man.
Right in your own home. You got your laptop, you've got your phone, you've got Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Who needs to go outside?
I know, right? I think it's one of the things that people don't realize is that if you are like a go-getter and you're always like working and trying to work and get stuff done, that you actually don't clock off, because now your work is your workplace is also your home place.
And that's good and bad. For me, because with entrepreneurs, we work all the time. There's no downtime. It's 24/7, 7 days a week. But when you're at home, especially when you have a family, luckily my kids are grown and it's just me and this big fat cat Chewy. But if there was someone else in here with me, they would feel isolated because I don't have time to chit chat. I don't have time to entertain. I'm working, and then I have my Netflix playing in the background, right?
Yeah.
It's background noise, really. But yeah, so working from home, it can really damage, a co-spouse or some kind of relationship like that, because you are kind of crazed.
Yeah, it's I've started to feel that a lot more now because obviously, like, I work from home on a regular basis, but my girlfriend on her days off and when she's home, it really starts to get to her where I'm waking up on a Monday or Tuesday and it's 6 o'clock. I get to work, and then she's on her day off and she can't go outside or anything, so she's just here and she's like, entertain me, or should I be here, should I do this, should I do that, I don't want to interrupt anything. It's I could definitely see how it causes a lot of strain, unintentional. I mean,
it really can.
Yeah, and it's
like you said, unintentional, but I think for us, I think for us that we have to be more mindful of that. You know, when you are in a household with other people, loved ones, you really do have to know how to shut this off
Yeah.
and spend time. It could be designated time. It just can't be random, but have some dedicated time that you're spending with your family and loved ones. But then folks have to understand our mindset, because the mind of an entrepreneur is totally different than anyone else's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm totally type A. I get it done, as you know, as you've seen me work. Get it done. Hey, no questions asked. Get it done. And keep moving. And that, it's so for a relationship, it can be tough. But like I said, and I'll tell anyone who has a family at home, especially kids, you carve out that time and just shut everything else off and focus. Be very present. The best gift that you can give someone is to be present.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I'm starting to acknowledge that and notice that and appreciate that a lot more now than in the past. One, because I'm in a pretty stable relationship and I enjoy my relationship and I want that to continue. But also because you become a lot more self-aware. It's like when you realize that like you've been on your phone for like 3 hours straight and you're like, maybe I should put my phone down just because I don't want to be that person that's always on my phone. So
Exactly. But you know what? And it could be controversial, but with this whole coronavirus thing that's going on and everyone's at home now, I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is time for a reset, where people can start slowing down, okay? Because even as an entrepreneur, that hustle and grind is totally overrated. You burn yourself out.
Yes.
You'll mess up your health. You'll mess up your friendships with that hustle and grind, fake it till you make it, all that kind of mindset. And that's where I'm shifting out of, believe it or not. I'm shifting out of that mindset. I really, truly am. And trying to focus more on family, on self-care, on things that really, truly matter.
Yeah, and I think that's...
And so with this whole virus thing, like I said, my friend was sent me an article in L.A. where all the sky is clear. There's no smog because people are social distancing and they're staying home. They're not driving their cars as much. And in other major cities, the same thing. There's dolphins now in Italy in the canals, and I'm going, maybe we're the virus, okay? Maybe we're the ones that's messing everything up, So I think it's time for us to really sit back while we're having this time at home and focus on and really meditate on what could we do differently when we start back into the workplaces, when we start back with our regular lives. What is it that we can leave behind? And not carry forward with us. So this is to me, a time for us to have, it's kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
For all of us.
I think it's because I was talking to somebody about it on one of the other podcasts. It's a paradigm shift, like we can't sit here and say that, people don't have natural predators. It's just that we can't see those natural predators, that's the reality of it. And with it, it's forcing us to be self-reflective in how we traverse the world and how we interact with each other.
Exactly.
And how we and how we work in certain environments, and really like what industries are meant to be obsolete in the next 50 to 100 years, like we're not sitting here talking about bring back coal jobs or bring back manufacturing jobs right now. Because it's like, those things aren't going to, where is that going to get us? People need toilet paper and people need food, people need other things.
Yeah.
People need to find
medications, they need water.
Yeah.
It's like, come on now.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting to see how things have how just things change just like that. And we have to adapt to it. And if we don't, then then we're the ones that become obsolete.
Hey, honey, let me tell you, Mother Nature ain't no joke, okay?
Yeah.
When Mother Nature calls, you got to listen.
Oh, yeah.
And, so I don't know what type of, spirituality different people have. I'm very spiritual. No, I don't go to church every Sunday, and I'm not that. But I'm very spiritual, and I think things happen for a reason, and I think we need to look and listen to what these reasonings are, before we move forward.
Yes, very true, very true. I mean, it's just, being self-aware and just self-reflecting all the time. Every time something happens, you're like, okay, like what do I do about this? How do I respond? And you don't have to be like hyper aware of it. It's just, you need to just be aware of that things are changing, and you just want to be with those changes and not against those changes.
Exactly. And you know what? The other thing, too, for anyone that has a business or an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs know how to pivot, right? You have to, as you know, like with iUrban Teen, we had all of our programming was live programming in group settings, no online stuff, because I wanted kids to build relationships, et cetera. But when this hit, and schools were closing and we had to cancel a bunch of our programs, what did we do? Within a week's time, we created, 6 weeks worth of online content.
Yep. Yes.
So you see how fast we had to pivot, right?
Yeah.
We had to pivot. And I'm like, okay, this is going so well. We're going to keep an online presence, with some of our classes. Even when we go back live, when we have the sessions with the kids in groups and all, I think we will always keep an online presence. So
yeah.
Through this midst of this dilemma, we're able to think of new opportunities. And so I think that now is a good time for even business owners and even large dinosaur companies to think about how do they pivot now?
Yeah.
It's with this new world that we're in.
Yeah, I think it's it always goes back to like a couple years ago when I was trying to explain to somebody why they should have an Instagram account or a Twitter account for if they do customer service. It's because like Twitter is the fastest way to connect with people and interact with people, and Twitter is free. And so all you got to do is just make sure you have an internet connection, whereas you don't have to worry about a phone bill, you don't have to worry about all those things. But for like brick and mortar businesses and dinosaur businesses that are so used to sort of the in-person thing or the traditional thing, it's really sort of like forcing them to sort of adapt to this, to where like you want to, like you don't want a whole bunch of customers calling you right now. You want them to hit you up on Twitter, and you could go through all the messages and respond to them at your leisure. Because people are getting laid off, people are doing all these different things, and it's just like, wow, it's just wild.
I know. That's what's weird. But I'm kind of old school. Well, I'm old, so I'm old school. I'm new school, old school. I'm a mix of both. But because I'm still struggling with Twitter and Instagram. I don't post the way I should, and I really don't know how. And
Yeah.
But we have them. But I still think that sitting down over a cup of coffee with someone new and learning about them, I think connecting with them originally on social media is great.
Yes.
But at some point, you need to meet those people. I have a group that I've started, like over 10 years ago, called the International Black Women's Collaborative, and it's women of color all over the world. And so when I go to other countries, I connect with them. And it is like, it's such a reward meeting them live. And I feel like we've been sisters all these years, but never met.
Yeah.
So it takes it to a different level when you actually meet them, So I think there needs to be a mix of the social media, the Twitter, the Instagram, the TikTok, all that stuff. But at some point, relationships beat out. Live relationships, I feel beat out. I could be wrong, but that's my take.
Well, I think that's the reality of it. I mean, in this day and age, you won't get a deal, you won't get a movie deal, you won't get any sort of you won't be able to progress unless you have those personal relationships that
until you have those relationships, yeah. And you know how hard I push iUrban Teen and all, right?
Yeah.
And relationships matter, because I've spent so much time behind the scenes building programs, doing this, doing that, that I didn't take the time to go and build those relationships like I could have, because I feel that we could have been further along as far as funding and all if we had the relationships with the key individuals that can make things happen. I learned that the hard way, but I wish I would have done that years ago. Now, the only problem with me, and it's not really a problem, I think for me it's part of my integrity, is that I'm not a schmoozer, right?
Yeah.
And I don't just meet people to say, oh, hey, by the way, with this small talk, and then try to sneak in and ask, right? I tell people up front what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And if they're not interested, oh, well, we'll still be a connection, but, at least I know that you're not a funder. But, so for me, I am very transparent with people because I don't like people. I do cuss a little bit. Is it okay if I say?
I don't think any kids are going to be listening to this.
Okay, well, good. I don't like people to bullshit me, okay? Because I don't have time for that circular conversation. Let me know what it is you're looking for up front so that either I can accept it, turn it down, or refer you to someone else, But by the time people take all this time on LinkedIn and all these other social medias connecting with me, it's this long time before they get to the punchline. I don't have time for that. Busy people don't have time for that. So for me, I honor them by telling them up front what it is I'm looking for.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, just that is a very clear conviction right there.
Yeah, it really is. It throws some people back a little bit, but that's just who I am. That's what I believe in. I don't want to do smoke and mirrors to people.
Yeah.
And I think, I know that people that know me know of my integrity, and I swear by that. So yeah, I can never be a schmoozer. I don't even know how to do the schmoozing thing.
Yeah, it's an acquired skill from what I hear. But
I need to hire a schmoozer. That's what I need. I need to hire a big schmoozer.
Well, good luck finding one because I don't know where to start to help you with that one.
Me either. I'm like, where's the snoozers? Gosh, no, but it's an interesting world. There's a lot of pros and cons about being an entrepreneur. But I couldn't imagine myself being anything other than that, than what I am and what I do.
Yeah. And so, you mentioned that entrepreneurship and traveling across the country and all these different things. What do you do? What is sort of your job among jobs?
My elevator pitch thing. I do so many things. So I have the group called International Black Women's Collaborative. It's about 3,000 women of color around the country, around the globe, actually, that's in that group. And it's a show. We have a group on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm also now a founding member of Black Women in STEM 2.0 that we just launched last year, and we're getting a lot of great support for that organization. In fact, we have a webinar this Thursday on code switching that we're doing. Yeah, and it's sold out. It's filled up. I can't even get any more people in that webinar room.
Oh, dang.
So I'm sorry. I should have told you.
Yeah, right.
Told you about it. But we're going to record it. It's going to be recorded.
Okay, cool.
Then I used to do diversity recruiting. I had my own company called Mosaic Blueprint. So when I left the city of Portland back in 2007, I left to take care of my mom, who was diagnosed with dementia. And so I was not going to put her in a home or anything. I wanted to take care of her. So I thought to myself, you know what? I kept wavering back and forth on, do I start my own business? I'm kind of scared. I don't know. Maybe I should stay here, work part-time, all these decisions. And so I got an email from someone, and in their signature line, it had a quote. It said, I considered all the ways to fail, and then I took the leap of faith and found myself flying. I remember that vividly. And to me, that was a wake-up call. The next day, I put my resignation in.
Oh, wow.
And I left and I started my own business, to take care of my mom. So I have a business at home. Now, little did I know how difficult it was starting a business and taking care of an elderly parent with dementia,
Yeah.
But I did. And that was my diversity recruiting company. And then I launched iUrban Teen in 2011. And I started that group because, I've always been vested in youth and in the community. And so I was a commissioner here in the state of Washington on the Governor's Commission on African American Affairs. And all of our ethnic commissions were looking at the opportunity gap issue, especially for male youth of color who were falling through the cracks, being marginalized, being incarcerated, all these things that can happen. And so they started writing up these reports and having all these meetings and all. Well, I'm not one to sit and just wait for things to happen. I try to figure out what can I do to put a dent in this. So I immediately started working in my community, on making sure families knew about the Running Start program. And a lot of the counselors weren't even telling our parents, our Black and brown parents, about this Running Start program. That's a great opportunity for youth. And then I was asked to participate on the Chief Information Officer Council in Portland. And so when I went to the very first meeting, I looked in the room, and it was a room full of white men. There was no diversity. I was it for diversity.
Oh, wow.
And so as soon as I sat down, it was a lunch meeting. As soon as I sat down, I started thinking. I said, okay, so over here we have these youth of color that are being, marginalized and falling through the cracks and not getting these opportunities. But here in this room is where the opportunities are. So how do I bridge this divide? And that's when I came up with iUrban Teen during that lunch hour. And 6 months later, we launched and had the first summit at Washington State University. And it's been just going smoothly ever since, So once we had it there at Vancouver, then we started having events in Portland. And then we had families from Seattle coming all the way down to Portland and then asking, could we launch there? So that started the migration to the different cities. So right now we're in Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Houston, and Dallas. And there's so many other cities waiting for us, but we just can't, until we get fully funded, we can't just expand that way. So, I'm really excited. So since we launched in 2011, we now serve over 8,000 youth that have been through our programs and stay with us year after year after year, all the way through college now. So I'm really, really excited about iUrban Teen. That's my baby, which is now, to me, it's like a teenager now.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you have kids that are essentially, they've gone through high school, they've probably gone through middle school, they've gone through high school, and they've probably gone through college at this point, or in college at this point. And so you've kind of raised, future generations essentially.
I know. Yeah, well, they all seem like my grandchildren, right? But yeah, we have some students like Jada who are here in Seattle. She was part of our first cohort in Seattle when we launched here. She just graduated from Spelman.
Oh, wow.
Her major was computer science. Yeah, but every summer when she would come home to Seattle from Atlanta, she would ask could she volunteer with iUrban Teen. She still wanted to stay a part of this community. And she did. She helped us every summer. Now she has a position at Microsoft as a program manager.
Hey,
at Microsoft.
That's nice.
So I know.
Yeah, that's nice.
I know, it's very nice. It's very nice. And so now just even the weight of our name has some prominence to it, because I know at Microsoft, if they see because they're one of our partners, if they see iUrban Teen on resumes and all, they can kind of like flag those,
Okay.
And also, I'm excited. That's worth its weight in gold right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so you mentioned sort of one thing. So you mentioned like black women in STEM 2.0. So was there a 1.0?
No. 1.0 is STEM, and that's the M in STEM is for math. I wanted to pivot it, like I always got to be different, right? So we shifted and changed the M to manufacturing.
Okay.
So that's why it's 2.0.
Okay.
Because math is, when you think about it, math is interwoven in all of the other, elements anyway, right?
Yes, very much so.
And we wanted to have that focus in manufacturing, as well, because there are women of color in manufacturing as well. So that's why we call it 2.0. So 1.0 was regular STEM.
Okay. And so this
we
is a
are
remix.
2.0 because we're adding manufacturing. This is a remix.
Yeah, this is a remix.
I need to have Snoop Dogg playing some music now.
Hey, you better unlock some of those connections.
I know, huh? I know. I really should. I got to get better at that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no. That's why we call it that, and I'm really excited.
Okay. And so one of the things that I'm like always curious about when you have individuals, particularly Black people, that kind of go off and branch out and do their own thing, really based off of an idea. How do you get to like that next? How do you get that first? I wouldn't say how do you get the first, but like how do you continue to get more and more sort of like connections and contributors and volunteers and all that stuff in all these different states and cities when when you really just started from an idea and you just kept at it.
Yeah, well, that's why I always want to try to even betray upon the kids that your ideas mean things. Okay, those ideas that you think of and that stay and linger with you, do something with it. What was it? Somebody said the graveyard is full of broken dreams, that people just didn't pursue. I am of the mindset, not everybody's like me, I'm of the mindset that whatever I think of, I move on. There's an action attached to it. So, like when I thought about iUrban Teen, I was trying to fill a void, fix a need that was out there. With my diversity recruiting company, trying to fill a need. Companies were looking for how do they diversify their workforce, and candidates of color were looking for great jobs. So, but for me, and I will say it's very, very hard. It's very hard being a Black female founder because, one, we usually don't have the connections that we need. It took me a long time to build up that network and to even include other ethnicities, into that network. And being very clear of what you need. I spent a whole lot of time asking friends and other people, well, do you think I should do this? Or do you think, and I was getting the wrong information because they couldn't really see the vision that I had. I really couldn't clearly see the vision. So it took a couple of years for me to really understand my vision and understand how to make all of the stuff come together in this mosaic, right? And my other companies, Mosaic Blueprint.
Okay.
But how do I pull all of these different things together? And actually with iUrban Teen, some of the things that we're doing now are things that I thought up 10 years ago, but I couldn't just roll everything out because people thought I was crazy, and they would say, oh, you can't do all that right now. Oh, you can't do that. I can't stand hearing the words you can't, And so instead of hearing that, I just started doing it anyway, started layer by layer by layer, So you have to have that strong team around you. You have to build I call it your board of directors or your board of advisors, people that are diverse as well. I could not have a whole diverse team of advisors that were very traditional thinking because I'm not. They have to be a mix of the traditional thinker plus the edgy, the Elon Musk kind of thinker, right? Yeah. So I have to have that diversity of thought, and people that understand me. And you see how I work so well with Keith and you also. I need translators. I need people that know how to talk to those analytical people. Because when I'm talking to very analytical people, they don't get it. They can't see the vision. But when I talk to people that are both creative and analytical, and we all have parts of that, but some are higher tuned than others. But when I'm talking to people like you and Keith, you guys can grasp the concept and explain it clearly to those analytical people. So you need to know who you can work with and work well with, with your business. And I also need to say, be patient. It takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years to really start seeing some traction. And this is year 9 for iUrban Teen. And it's just been over the past 2 years that we've really seen the traction. Even after the White House, I was honored in the White House, the White House Champion of Change.
To talk about that, because you went to the White, so you got there you were invited to the White House in 2013, but you started this in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it
Yeah, I
wasn't
started in
you went
2011.
from an idea in Seattle to being invited into the White House in 2 years. So you mentioned that it
I
takes 7 years,
know.
but it sounded like you kind of hit the ball rolling.
Yeah,
Within
I
the
did. I did.
yeah.
But the thing is, I hit it, but there was no plan of action behind it.
Mm.
Like I kept thinking, maybe we need a PR person because this is kind of like big time.
Oh yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I'm like, we had no marketing plan or strategy in place. None of that stuff, and so I was sitting here going, so what do we do? Do we just let it pass? So I missed an opportunity.
Yeah, dang, because and so what was that experience like? What was that experience like? How did that even come about? Really, you know?
Well, what happened was during that White House Champion of Change whole experience, we had there was parents and some of our people advisors saw this and they said, "Hey, I saw this. And I'm gonna enter your name." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, whatever." And so they wrote up these wonderful articles about me and submitted it into to the White House. And about 6 months later, I started seeing that they were going to honor me. I got an email and I saw this logo with White House. And I'm going, okay, wait a minute. Is this real? I kept going, it's not real. This is like one of those phishing schemes.
Yeah. He was like, let me just put this in the spam.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And so I started going, wait a minute. So they sent me another email and I finally responded. And, they were thanking me that had been chosen for this award. I couldn't believe it. It was really, really, really amazing for me. Amazing opportunity. But we started a webinar for one of our online sessions, and
Uh-oh.
so you can't hear it there. But yeah, so that was amazing. But you know what? My mother passed away suddenly in 2010.
Okay.
She had a pulmonary embolism. And so I remember standing outside the White House and I felt a sense of sadness first because I was sitting there going, I can't believe I'm going to be honored in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The White House, President Obama, oh my God. And but then I thought to myself, my mother's not here to see this. My mother or father are not here to see this. And so I had a very deep sense of sorrow. But then I realized I was rubbing a ring that my mom wore. It was her wedding band, and I put it on my index finger the night that she died, and I've never taken it off. I realized I was rubbing it. And I looked at it, and I said, oh, yeah, no, I'm bringing you in here with me. You're here. So that lifted my spirits up because I said, that's what I'm doing. So now, ironically, whenever I do a keynote, whenever I speak in front of crowds, I rub this ring first because that's a way to bring my mother into that space. Well, since that time, I've had several losses. My sister passed away of cancer 3 years ago, and she would always buy me Chanel No. 5 for Christmas. So now I rub my mother's ring. I wear my Chanel No. 5 when I go to speak. Then my husband passed away last year in February. And so there was a special ring that he gave me on our first anniversary. So I wear that pearl and diamond ring, my sister's cologne, and rub my mom's ring. But then I said, you know what? I don't need any more tokens now so nobody die no time soon because I'm going to be buried down here pretty soon. So it's for me, it's just, those are my good luck charms.
Oh yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to this feeling and sort of sub theme that I found with a lot of the podcast episodes where particularly Black people, and I'm not sure if it's ingrained in sort of Black culture, but there's this need to further a legacy. There's the need to have a legacy and build it. and build it for generations in the future, but also like honoring the legacy of everybody that's come back, that got you up to that point.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's in that, and just kind of acknowledging that and really participating in it is just really, really profound and powerful.
It really, truly is. It gives me power, because I know that when I'm walking in that room, when I'm walking on this earth, I have all of my ancestors with me, right? And so, in fact, for iUrban Teen, we have some wristbands now that I had to quote. iUrban Teen's on one side. The other side is I'm making my ancestors proud, for all the students in our sessions to understand that, what does that mean, and how you walk through this life with integrity. In fact, I received an award from Clark College a couple of years ago, Iris Award. And, I've gotten a lot of awards over the years, very fortunate and very blessed. But for this one, it was in Vancouver, and that was the first time my family, my son and his wife and my granddaughters, were there to see me receive this award. So when I was up on stage and I was accepting it, I looked over at my granddaughter, my oldest one, and I asked the audience, I said, can you give me just a moment? I have a message for my granddaughter. And everybody said, sure. So I asked my son to put Layla up on stage. So she was on stage looking at me, and I said, Layla, I hope that one day you'll understand why your grandmother's being honored here tonight. And I also hope that you'll understand the path that I'm trying to create for you. I said, Layla, we are standing on our ancestors' shoulders, our ancestors who were slaves. So it's important for us to walk through this life with integrity, dignity, and grace. Can you promise me that you'll do that? And she shook her head, yes. The audience was crying, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so
it's a tearjerker right now.
I know. And so I looked at the audience and I said, ladies and gentlemen, in 20 years, she'll be the one here receiving this award. Let's give her a round of applause. And I meant that, right? I meant that. So, and it's very important for people to know, how do you build that, continue that legacy with your kids, with your grandchildren, right? And so, yeah, that was, and I'm glad Keith was there, and Keith videotaped it on his phone. So I have that now in a video, thanks to Keith.
Oh, nice.
I know. So that is very important. And I hope that because sometimes I think that we as a community, we've lost our way as far as how do we make sure that we are each other's keepers, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times people that look like you and I could have opened the door of opportunity for me, but they didn't. That hurts more than anything else, because there's a bond that we're supposed to have that we've lost. So it's very important that we reconnect and understand, how do we help support each other in the community, in our businesses? How do we do that? And even for our families, how do we start building out that legacy, for our families? So that's something, and I guess because I'm older now and I can look back and reflect back on things, those are the things that are important to me now.
Yeah. And it's, those are the things that will kind of carry you over as you transition from like one life event to the next. Is,
Exactly.
It's not the money. Because we see that, with the coronavirus stuff, like, it doesn't matter how much money you got, like, it's indiscriminate of that. But it's really, It's the people, and it's the connections that help you get over that hump.
It's the people, it's the connections. My mother told me years ago, and I think she just ingrained it in us. She said, when you're on your deathbed, it doesn't matter what material possessions you have. What matters most is what you've done to help others. And so that is part of my credo, no matter what. Yeah, community to me, family community, that comes first, over everything. And so, and I think one of the reasons why we have such strong family engagement and support with iUrban Teen is because these families know that we care about their kids, and they know that we will continue to build that yellow brick road for them as much as we can, with or without funding. So. Yeah, family community first.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so to kind of like wrap up, what?
I know I talk a lot.
Oh,
you didn't realize I talk a lot.
Oh no, it makes the conversation go a lot smoother, because that, I mean, for podcasting and stuff, that's kind of what I pride myself on, is just, I know how to record stuff, I know my way around technology, and I know how to talk to people. And so, I'm
Yeah.
not a journalist. I'm not, I don't go and investigate things outside of science. And, but, I do see that there's power in hearing from people that are doing things. And you could always
Yeah.
get inspirations from those. You could get new ideas. You could, just find a whole lot of insights from just hearing people speak. And in this day
Mhm.
and age, I think it's a lot more powerful now that people can't really like go and see people now. And so having to hear them on a podcast and stuff, I think becomes a lot more powerful.
I think so too, and this feels a lot easier. This was easy. I've done podcasts and interviews before where it's very targeted, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't feel people really get a chance to see me, or hear me, or hear who I am, from some of those other ones. And you've done a great job at that. So I thank you for being such a great host.
Oh yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I'm like really curious, and I kind of have an idea because I like have been kind of part of some of it. But what are the things that like you're most excited for like coming up down the pipeline?
Oh gosh, I'm excited about all of this new online content that we've created, and how do we make that a continuum? How we can build on it from here on. I'm already looking at creating a website just for our mind stream, and you're the one that came up with the
Yeah.
name. I love
Yes,
it.
exactly.
With our mind stream. Yeah. I'm like, how can we continue? And that was funny because remember we were all bantering about names, and all of a sudden you just said, "What about mind stream?" And we went, "Wow."
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember like what was the one that you guys settled on before that. It was like,
Oh, we were talking about rap sessions.
yeah.
We had all kind of crazy names that they just didn't feel right. But as soon as you said that one, I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting back into more keynotes, in more international, because I was blessed to be a keynote speaker in Prague for the Linux Foundation.
Ooh, nice.
A couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed that. So I'm really gonna start looking at building up my public speaking appearances, and then continue on building iUrban teams. So that's what I'm excited about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in terms of public speaking, it sounds like you might want to get into podcasting.
I do. You got to show me how. I really do want to. I just, it's like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to promise me to show me how to do
Oh
this.
yeah. I'll definitely show you the ropes. But yeah. I definitely appreciate you taking the time and kind of like getting us up to speed and dropping some knowledge for us. And one last question, because this is the Black Rose PDX podcast, where we are trying to highlight the movers and shakers in, really the black movers and shakers, that interface with Portland. What is the blackest thing you've either experienced, seen, heard in Portland? Or, we'll branch out to like the Pacific Northwest. But like, what is like the blackest experience you've had out here?
Nothing. Let me state. I moved up to Portland from Compton, okay?
Okay.
From Compton, California, where it's black on black, blackety black, okay?
Yeah.
And moved up to Portland, and it was a huge culture shock. It was the whitest area I've ever seen. I've never seen that many white people. And I really didn't. And so it was a miss. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It's gotten better over the years. This is the early 90s, but it was a huge culture shock for me. One of the things I miss, they talk about the Crips and the Bloods and all this stuff in Compton, but we had a sense of community. We had a true community. I miss seeing the neighbors playing dominoes on their front porch, right?
Yeah.
I miss them coming to check on you. I miss those things that I could never get in Portland. It took a long, long, long time to find my tribe in Portland. And I got involved with a lot of different things. There's a lot of diversity initiatives that I created in the city of Portland that I didn't get any credit for. So when I saw all those things happen, and I saw how marginalized people of color were then at the time, there in Portland, it really disturbed me. It really did.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because so many people have that feeling when they come out here. You know, me being one of them,
Hmm.
and really like finding that this generation is the one that is kind of like making that making filling that void
Exactly.
with a lot of the needs that they have. So events,
Yeah.
like like different events. There's different initiatives going on, different like meet and greets, different parties. Parties. Group me for sure. Like group me, and like meetup have been like very very influential forums and blogs. It's definitely been. I wouldn't say it's like a cultural renaissance. I would say like there's
Yeah.
so many like things popping up just out of the sheer need to really fill the gaps in what's lacking in sort of like the Portland Black culture.
Yeah, and it's a generational thing. It really truly is, because like your generation is making that happen. The older generation, like I said, when I first moved up here, very cliquish, very much of, if you weren't raised in Portland, we're not going to let you in,
Yeah.
kind of behaviors. And it was stifling. It was really stifling. That old guard, that old guard that's there, that's still there actually, that can block you from any business opportunities at any whim that they have, just because they may not like you. So I've always worked with more of the Gen X and millennials, because that it was a different mindset. So what I see, because remember, I'm up here in Seattle right now, and I've been up here for almost 5 years now. But from what I've seen happening in Portland, you guys are the new Renaissance. So keep it going. My granddaughters need to see you guys.
Oh yeah.
They're little, but they need to be a part of that change of Portland. And the same needs to happen up here in Seattle as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It's especially in this day and age, like there's no excuse not to do something if you have the drive to do it, because there's so many resources that you could get your hands on. Especially now, like there's so many deals and sales and free things available, and so while people were doing their whole push-up challenge, also just make something, manifest that
Push-up
idea.
challenge, like the exercise?
Oh yeah.
The exercise?
Oh yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
push-up?
So what's going on? If you don't know what's going on like TikTok and like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, is that people will like challenge a whole group of people, and they'll like crank out like 20, 30 push-ups, and then they will record it, and then they will tag other people in it that they nominate. And so then it becomes this like domino effect where one person tags you, and then you go and you tag 5 people, and then those 5 people tag more 5 people. And before you know it, you got somebody tagging you, telling you to do 60 push-ups.
Oh my gosh! I hope nobody tags me.
Hey.
Okay, I'd have a heart attack. I'd have a heart attack trying to do a push-up. So Stephen, don't you dare tag me on any of
Hey,
that stuff.
I'm staying
Okay?
low key with it, because I'm not trying to do 200 push-ups today.
I know. No, that's crazy. That's crazy. I think that, like I said again, your generation is the one that's changing things. You guys saw a need. You weren't going to go with the old guard kind of way of doing things, and you're building your community the way you want it. And that is really something I would be proud of.
Yeah.
Proud of you guys for. So bravo. Now remember when we had our Black Women in STEM conference there last October. I was so blown away by seeing so many Black women that attended that. And in the room, I was like, oh my God, where are these? Are they in Portland?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was like, from
yeah,
all
so,
walks of life. It's like, I do this, I do this, I
yeah,
do this. I'm like, dang. Like, dude.
I know. It felt good. Didn't it feel good that we had a sense of community that day?
Yeah. It was definitely an experience that I rarely, that you often forget exists. That feeling, you often forget that
Exactly.
exists, because you are typically like the darkest person in the room, and I am pretty light, so
Yeah.
that's saying a lot. It's
I know. Well, look, I think I'm lighter than you. Okay, and I'm usually the darkest person in the room.
yeah, and it's but it's one of those things that like people that don't walk in our shoes don't understand, and
They don't understand
and they don't give themselves the opportunity to understand because it just doesn't happen,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm, it doesn't. And, we talk about how so-called liberal the Pacific Northwest is, and it really isn't. It's like,
Oh yeah.
wow, yeah, it really isn't. They need to, you don't know how many times I had to tell people to check their privilege, right? It can be a challenge. That's why I love going out to New York and to LA, San Francisco, down south, to be around us and get my culture fix
Yeah.
before I come back up here, So, yeah, but no, it's interesting. But at the same time, there's so many opportunities in Portland and Seattle.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many opportunities. Yeah, and it's beautiful here.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's last week was amazing weather. We were like full on quarantine and looking at clear skies, birds chirping. It was a sight to see. But I mean, the air will kill you. Like it's just one of those things.
Yeah. No, I think it's important, though, for any of us that's listening, any folks listening, to, though, get out. Like for me, I'm here right on Lake Washington, so I try to get out every day. And sometimes I don't, but I try to get out every day just to get some fresh air.
Yeah.
I'm not around people, none of that kind of stuff, but I just need to get out. And I think that's the way we can survive all of this is, we have our Zoom, our meetups and all that online, but you still need to connect with nature some type of way.
Yeah.
Some type of safe way, for right now.
Yeah, you just gotta disconnect. You just gotta disconnect from sort of like society and really reconnect with nature and with your roots and with yourself.
Yeah, you really do. No, it's different times for us. It's another world shift that we need to adjust to. Luckily, I love change, so it's like I'm excited about what the opportunity could be.
It was like, it's about time. Yeah, I was waiting for this.
I know, I'm like, yay. No, I'm not saying yay. But, no, I look at the opportunity in this. Like I said, the opportunity to create that online content.
Yep.
For iUrban team.
Yep.
I wouldn't have done that if this didn't happen.
Oh yeah. I'm like,
now, the only thing
I was laughing at when I was trying to like explain the difference between live streaming and doing a webinar.
Man, you guys, good and well, that's confusing for me. I'm just like, what? But I got it.
Yeah.
I understand now. It's tricky, but I got it. I know Keith. See, you're going to join Keith's club and laughing at me on some of this techie stuff.
It's like, I think it's, it reminds me of when Uber and Lyft first came out. And you would mention like, oh, I'm getting ready to take an Uber, and then you explain how Uber works. And then you'd be like, oh, you're just gonna get in a stranger's car. They're gonna take you someplace.
Stranger's car. I know. Gosh, do you know how I wish I would have invested in Uber or Lyft when they first started, and in Zoom. I wish I would have invested in Zoom because now everybody's using it.
Yeah, now everybody's using it, and it's weird because every time you put every time you do a calendar invite in Google, which I feel like everybody does calendar invites in Google. It automatically creates a virtual meeting and it automatically creates a virtual meeting that you could either link into with the video chat or you could call into, but nobody even knows about it. It's been around for years.
Wow. Well, that's how I do it. I just connect it to my Google Calendar.
Yep. Yep. And and
just do it that way.
But quite often because it automatically creates it when you make the meeting or when you make the calendar invite. And so I always find myself having to copy and paste the phone number and the link and send it to people in a separate email. because they just don't know that it exists.
Well, you know what? You're right, because I have some people. In fact, we do a weekly call every week. She can't find the information to click on, so I have to cut and paste and send it to her separately. And I'm going, oh. So I get it. I get it. Yeah. Well, Stephen, this has been wonderful. I'm going to have to get off this phone and get ready for the next webinar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I greatly appreciate the time. And when you're ready to get your podcast set up, let me know, and we will.
I definitely will. It's going to be sooner rather than later. So be ready.
Okay, I will.
You take care.
Have a good one. Again, I want to give another shout out to the Soul District Business Association and Flossom Media for helping me put this on. I'm your host, Stephen Christian. I mixed and mastered this podcast. I also did all the interviews. And if you see any of the stuff on YouTube, I put all that stuff together as well. With all the social distancing things right now, I'm producing this right out of my home studio. So if you have a chance, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Medium at PDX Black Rose, which is PDX BLACKROSE. And if you're on Patreon, hit us up on there. We would love your support. If you don't do anything else, definitely rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. And on top of that, be sure to share this with your friends. The purpose of this podcast is to highlight the movers and shakers in Portland that are doing things in the Black community. And by supporting this podcast, you're supporting the community as a whole. So with that being said, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the flip side. The intro song is brought to you by Andy Stokes, and the outro song is brought to you by Spring Gang from Epidemic Sound.